All right, good morning, and I get an Erev Shabbos to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here today. Today's shir should be the Ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gervil Tzvi, and the Refuah Shalema Bekarov, Meshulam ben Sarah Rachel, and the Refuah Shalema Miriam Bas Sarah. We are on page 33 in the art scroll for those who are following along. And today we are talking about the fifth spiritual benefit of bitachon. When we started, we understand there's 10 benefits of bitachon. The first 5 of them are spiritual, and the second set are worldly matters. And so the fifth spiritual benefit of bitachon is like this. Umehen. Another one of the benefits that bitachon provides regarding spiritual matters is Ki haboteach b'Hashem lo yibno'enu roiv hamamim mibtoach b'Hashem. That if for one who truly places his trust in Hashem, having a fortune of money will not prevent this person from continuing to trust in Hashem. This is a little bit different than when we spoke about money in the past. Over here, I was just talking about the fact that you have money. Mipnei she'einenu soymech el hamamim. Because a person with bitachon doesn't put his trust and doesn't rely on the extra funds that he has in his bank as the assurance for his future. Because he understands that his future is not reliant on that money, just as he had bitachon to earn that money to begin with. He understands that that money may or may not be there in the long run, but his true self-righteousness and wealth, as we spoke yesterday, really comes from his bitachon. V'hu be'inav kipakadan tzuva lehishtamesh b'y al apanim miyuchadim u'yanim miyuchadim. Rather, he views the money that he has in his bank account as a deposit from Hashem, that Hashem commanded him to use specific ways. It's a deposit that Hashem wants him to use, example, to do business honestly, to give tzedakah, to help out Yiddishkeit, to build moistus, to be able to learn Torah. Lizman kotzev, and he knows that he has given this deposit for an allotted period of the time, that it might not last in his control forever. It might be gone at some point. V'im yasmit kinumay etzlo yivad ba'avuray, and also since this is his outlook, and even if the money does remain in his custody for the rest of his life, he's never going to become arrogant and rebel against Hashem as a result of his fortune. And he will remain submissive to Hashem and understanding that this money is still not his. Never will it be his. It's Hashem's money, and he's merely taking care of it in the way Hashem wants him to take care of it. In addition, when he gives tzedakah, he recognizes that he is simply distributing the money that Hashem deposited with him to begin with. And he will not afterward mention his kindness to the one whom he is commanded to give the money. An example to a poor beneficiary, which he's trying to say over here is that when he does give the tzedakah, when he gives money to an organization or whatever it is he's helping, he doesn't remind him and say, hey buddy, you remember I gave you that money? He doesn't do that because he knows it wasn't him. It was Hashem's money. He's merely distributing. He's an employee of Hashem. He's doing his job as the custodian, as the CFO of Hashem in order to distribute that cash. And he certainly is not going to demand kindness from these people to be repaid to him, or he's never going to demand thanks or praise from these people from when he gives them the help that they need from this charity. Rather, he's thankful to Hashem for having appointed him as the CFO to help out these good people. He's saying that his charitable giving makes him more submissive to Hashem. The person with bitachon, every time he finds the opportunity that Hashem sends to him to be able to give tzedakah, to be able to help somebody out, he becomes more and more submissive, thanking Hashem that, wow, you gave me this huge opportunity to be able to help out. My job actually means something. It's not that we have money just sitting in account, not being able to do anything. I have the money sitting in the account that belongs to you, and you giving me work every single day. I have a full week, 40, 60-hour work week to take care of your money and distribute it properly. And that's the person with bitachon. And furthermore, he says, since he views himself as nothing more than a temporary custodian of these funds, since this person understands that it's not his money, and he might lose his job, even if he loses his money, if he loses his job as the custodian of Hashem's cash, he will not deject and will not mourn its loss. He's not going to become attached to it in a way where he's like, oh my gosh, I just lost my entire livelihood. My life has changed. Because this person understood the whole time it's not his money to begin with. On the contrary, he will realize that this allotted time as the custodian has ended, and he will thank Hashem for taking it back as his deposit from him. Why? Why will he thank Hashem that he took this back? It's like we spoke about yesterday. Just as he thanked him for giving him the deposit in the first place. Rav Av a few times is going to mention that the same way, and it's difficult, but the same way when we receive bracha from Hashem, when we receive kindness from Hashem, we thank Hashem. In it also when we receive seemingly not good stuff, something that befalls us, takes away our livelihoods, maybe makes us ill, whatever it is that it comes to us that's negative, we also thank Hashem because we understand, with the people with bitachon understand that even that is for his own well-being. And if it's not for a well-being, it's because of a punishment for something that you did. And therefore, it is, you are accepting that. You're accepting that as your punishment in that sense. V'yismach b'chelka. And he will be happy with his new, smaller share of money. And content with his new lot of not being the agent to distribute Hashem's funds. We learned yesterday that there is a matter of the wealth that is actually a daga, that we talked about the chachamim, that they actually were happy that they weren't rich, because there is the part of wealth that you're worried about your assets and about your properties every single day. But what we spoke about yesterday on a spiritual level is that the person who's wealthy also has to worry and make sure, hey, did I do my job correctly? If I have bitachon and I'm a rich man, then I believe that I'm Hashem's custodian and I'm his employee of his cash. Now, did I do that correctly? Did I give enough people tzedakah? Did I give enough tzedakah? Did I complete my quota that Hashem wanted me to do? And so you're constantly worried about, if you're a person with bitachon and has a lot of money, you're constantly worried about that. Say, hey, did I do enough? And so he says over here, he's thanking Hashem to taking away that responsibility from him and for taking away that daga from him. And will not wish harm upon anyone else who remained wealthy, not be envious of another person's fortune. And he says that when he does lose his money, that he shouldn't become envious of other people. He shouldn't say, wow, why me? Other people, I'm so jealous. Don't. The person of bitachon refrains from doing that because he understands that's the way it's supposed to be. And that these people who have it, they're zeichet to do that. And that they should do their job correctly as being the custodians of Hashem's cash. It says, Tzaddik oichel l'soiva nafshe, the attitude of the person with bitachon is in line with what the wise one says, which Shlomo HaMelech we said. A righteous person eats to satisfy his soul. And that the fifth spiritual benefit of bitachon is that attaining wealth does not negatively affect the person's reliance on Hashem. That a person with bitachon, whether rich or poor, that bitachon keeps him together. And that he shouldn't fall to the pitfalls that it comes if he does lose his money. That he should understand that the entire time he just had a job. He might have lost his job for whatever reason, but that was his job, to take care of Hashem's money. This week's Parsha, and Parsha's Mishpat, I saw a very short and sweet little thing I saw. It says, if a person buys an Eved Ivri, if a person buys a Jewish Eved, then it says that after 6 years he has to go free. So Hashem instructs every Yid that when he buys this Eved Ivri, after 6 years he goes free. On the surface, it seems like the Eved would be so happy after 6 years he would go and he'd be free from his master. But if you think about it, a slave doesn't feel this way. Why? Because the more you are enslaved to someone, the more reliant you are on that person. What happens then is that when this person all of a sudden has his freedom, he doesn't know what to do with it. He's kind of afraid of that freedom. He's afraid of being let go of being a slave because he doesn't know what the other side is to bring. Here, when he was a slave by his master, every single day he knew what it brought. The same way we spoke about last week in the Yidden and the Midbar. Even though they were Mitzrayim, they were doing Avodas Pech, but they knew they went home to a home, they had food, they had shelter, didn't have to worry about the Midbar. The same thing over here, the slave is in limbo at this point when he gets free. He doesn't know how to experience that. Doesn't know what it's about. So what's the point? And why is Hashem saying that you should enslave, that you should set them free? And why is this big deal? He says, whether you realize it or not, every single one of us people are enslaved to someone or something. You might be enslaved to your boss. You might be enslaved in your relationship. You might be enslaved to your own self-being of your own devices. Watching TV, mindlessly flipping through your phones. You're enslaved to it. How many of us go to sleep every single night with the phone in our face and just mindlessly swiping through it? Every one of us is enslaved to something or someone. And so, what Hashem is telling us, that when we let them go, and why it's a big deal, is because He wants to show us that it's our choice. It's our choice to be enslaved, that it's a mindset. Every single one of us is just afraid of what the other side brings. People in bad relationships and bad marriages, they're afraid of what divorce might bring. People who mindlessly swipe through their social media watching TV just to get away from the days, from the world matters, from whatever their days, the week was, is they're doing that because they're afraid to face the reality. Everyone is enslaved to something that holds them back. And what Hashem wants to show you, that it's in your mind. In your mind, you are holding yourself back because you think that way. He says the exact opposite is true. Whenever an unhealthy situation controls a part of your life and keeps you from blossoming, from becoming something great, then also know that you can walk away and make it without this master, without this person, without this social media, without this device. Hashem is letting us know that you could do it. And when you do muster up the strength to leave that negative situation and fight the inner voice that questions the ability to succeed, the battle's already 99% won because you decided you're going to fight against it. And now, because when you commit to being free, you decide, I want to be free from this negativity, you just have to hand over the ball over to Hashem and He will give you everything you need to make it. But first, all you have to do is make that decision. The same thing we see over here by the slave. Hashem tells you, free him. But it's to let his mind free. It's to give the person, to show every person, show the slave, we all of us who are enslaved to something or someone, that you could be free. That you could let go. And you could become better and greater when you do so. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and I love you all.